Okay, so I want to do a video where I recap like last night, basically, like how I was thinking during the night. So this kind of just like showcases the speed with which my ideas can sometimes pivot and change. And I'll give you like a little bit of backstory, but not too much. So essentially, like a couple of days ago, I have always I've been working with this assumption that you need to balance your positive and negative interactions with people. This is the theory of romance, but also I think one of my basic intuitions is that dynamic, or you need negative interactions, also applies in your relationship with society and also with your relationship with reality. And so I have been trying to find like where is the delimiter where you can figure out like how many negative interactions to have with society to start. And so I had thought the other day that maybe it's shared values, like essentially. So the absolute and relative ethics are your positive and negative interactions, because when you use absolute ethics, you're emphasizing the connection between us. You take responsibility for how your actions affect other people. And when you're using relative ethics, you are emphasizing the separation between us. You are not taking responsibility for how your actions affect other people. And so those two types of ethics roughly correspond, I think, to the positive and negative interactions. The problem is, where is the delimiter between how much is enough and not too much? I think it's very simple and straightforward, especially with the John Gottman study to build on for relationships. That the positive and negative interactions. So negative interactions in relationships are simple. Just like selfishness, any sort of challenge, and and statements and commands. Um, because I don't want to get into it, but yeah, those are the negative interactions. Like those are the kinds of negative interactions, and of course, like selfishness and challenge can take like a lot of forms, but also like they're easy to identify when you find them because they are an affront, right? And so I was thinking, I had a thought the other day, like maybe like the delimiter is your common values, basically. Like you should delimit, like basically treat people who don't have common values with you with more relative ethics, and people who do have common values with you with more positive ethics. And then and so that's what I was thinking about basically yesterday and the day before. And then last night I realized that like delimiting on values is something that people kind of already do already. And even though that might be true, it might be true that that is the right delimiter, it doesn't mean that it's the right way to think about it, because um, this is like my complaint about science, is that like and also in like deterministic ways of thinking versus like teleological ways of thinking, is that like it's always backwards instead of forward focused. And so like even though you can identify something that is real and happens, doesn't mean that it's the right way to think about it in order to move forward. um, and so I think like this is probably right, that delimiting on delimiting your positive and negative interactions on shared values is what people actually do, and that's probably like the right thing to do. It's not the right way to think about it, I think. And so I was thinking a lot about like seizing power, and what that means in a social context is usually it's essentially just like being extremely forward oriented, so that you can immediately, and immediacy is the right word, I think. You can immediately jump on opportunities. And then last night I shifted. While I was out, I shifted to another way of thinking about it, which is essentially like, I don't think you actually do need to balance your positive interactions, like in a personal relationship, in a one-on-one relationship. You balance it, like your positive interactions are essentially just like having directing your attention to people, or essentially just like anytime you're not being mean, you're being nice by just being around someone, by sharing their space, by having interest in them. That those are the positive interactions. And so really, like, you only need to pay attention to and meter your negative interactions. And so I started thinking about that. Like, I think that that is actually the right way to approach it. It's like, and especially like in your relationship with society. When I say society, I usually mean just like when you're talking to more than one person is like a really loose definition. But I think that okay, so I've got my other theory about liquid leadership, which is that my other theory about liquid leadership, which is that uh, essentially you can do these leadership engagements all the time. And my new and favorite, more favorite definition of leadership is initiative on the intersection of interest. And so it's essentially just like anytime that you notice someone else's interests overlapping with your interests, usually in a social context, that means like they are interested in you, their interest falls on you. But it doesn't have to be. It could be just like they have an interest in something that you are interested in. And then if you initiate on that intersection, that is leadership. And so it's like when you start to understand this, you realize like you can do it like all the time. Like people's interest is constantly sort of just like bouncing around, and it almost certainly in any given context is going to bounce onto something that you're interested in or onto you at some point, and you can intercept that and initiate and start an interaction, and and so and another thing that I was thinking about is that so another thing that I've noticed is that like the liquid leadership seems to be like extremely energizing. And so like there's another dichotomy that I have noticed, which is that frequently uh, going out and meeting new people is like an expansion and growth mode, and then often there's an opposite mode, which is like sort of intimacy usually, or like I think like traditionally we think of it as intimacy, which is like having like a long one-on-one conversation where you develop intimacy with a person. It could be somebody that you already know or a new person, but and these are opposite modes, right? Like meeting new people versus like investing in someone that you already know. This is like, and the reason for intimacy in my theory is that like intimacy is a mirror. It helps you see yourself. It helps you to learn and grow. And this is like the most like we only have one job as perceiving beings. It's to perceive correctly, and intimacy helps you perceive correctly, and so it helps you do your only job. It's one of the most potent and valuable tools for doing your only job, and so that's why we all crave and want intimacy. And I've definitely noticed in my life a really like sharp and pronounced sort of oscillation between like a need to go out and meet new people and then a need to like invest and do intimate conversation. And um, and for a long time, I thought that those two things were separate. But now I'm starting to think that the liquid leadership, especially with this like sort of understanding that you can stand on the negatives and you only need to meter your negative interactions, with the liquid leadership, uh, it's almost like the liquid leadership is both things because or at least like it supplants or replaces the need for intimacy, because like intimacy is a mirror, but also I think leadership is a mirror, or at least leadership puts you in the same position where you are able to infer from other people's reactions, their perceptions, and that's what you do with intimacy. And then if you can infer their perceptions, you can infer if your perceptions are correct. And so leadership gives you the same benefits that intimacy gives you. And so I'm starting to think that like the liquid leadership is like probably the best tool for going out and meeting new people, but it's also a great tool for satisfying your need for like introspection and personal growth. Like the maximizing versus minimizing dynamic. Like we all need to maximize and minimize. I think you should maximize more than you minimize, but it's like there's like a relationship where you still need some minimization. You still need to invest. Like you find new opportunities, but you still need to invest in some of those opportunities every once in a while. You can't just always be looking for new opportunities. Sometimes you need to invest in them. And so like the ratio I'm sure is different for everyone, but like I think this one activity, like the liquid leadership, is a one-stop shop for both things. You can use the liquid leadership both as your ability to find new opportunities, and also in so doing, it gives you the feedback that you need to verify your perceptions, so you never actually need to stop and invest in intimacy. Um, Not that it's bad to do that, of course, but it's like I think this one thing, depending on what you need, can serve both needs, and so that's kind of a profound thing. And And so when I realized this is all last night. And when I realized this, I was like, well, okay, so this is really simple. I already know how to do liquid leadership. Why am I not doing it right now? Because like as I was out, is like I was spending a lot of time thinking last night and not like interacting with people. And sometimes I have like I have a night where I just like have pause, just like no desire to interact with people, just want to sort of like think, and like, and I think it's like I'm in like the minimizing phase, like the investment phase. Like I want to introspect, I want to think, I want to, and but also it's just like Friday and Saturday night are only happen 2 days a week, and if it was like social like that every night, then that'll be fine. But it's like they only have it twice a week, so like I need to be taking advantage of those opportunities when they're happening, because they don't happen every night of the week. So that's always been a struggle, because like sometimes it's fine. Sometimes I'll go out and I'll interact with people, and I'll have like a super social night, and sometimes I'll go out and I'll just like not be in the mood for it, and I'm like, I don't have time to not be in the mood for it. When the opportunities are here, I need to take them. And so I realized like I think the problem is that like I am a thinker and not a feeler, or at least like I have been up till now a thinker, not a feeler. I've been investing uh, almost all of my energy into like thinking about things, not feeling about things. And I've done some thinking in the past about like the difference and dichotomy between thinking and feeling. And what I realized is that like so I have my theory about introversion and extroversion, and I think that introversion is identity loss anxiety, and I realized I had identity loss anxiety last night. I was like, damn, like I am afraid that if I start to be a feeler, it will be like a different person. It has control of me, and I won't be able to find my way back to being a thinker. And it took me like, I don't know, like 20 minutes of just like sort of like focusing on that and trying to let go of it and just be like, no, like if I am a feeler, it's still me. It's not like I've lost my thinker self. You know. And so I started to like let go, and I started to relax and sort of like vibe and talk with some people, and and then I had like a really good night. I met some people, although it was kind of late at that point. I only had like maybe an hour and a half of socializing at the end of the night. And also, this fucking thing in San Francisco, uh, there's so little social life available. Like, really, people are only out in mass from like 11 to 2 a.m. And because the entire city goes to sleep at like 10 p.m. every other night of the week. That doesn't make sense in terms of sleep schedule. But also, it's just like nobody's out. Nobody's out until 11. People are out. Like there's people on the streets, but like most people only go out until from 11 to 2 a.m. And that's really weird. So it's just like really hard to find like a lot of good social opportunities. Um, what was I talking about? Anyways, it was a good night. I feel like I had some good breakthroughs. I'm gonna think a lot more about this feeling versus thinking dynamic, and how to sort of feel my way forward with it. And yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of things that are still tangled up and jumbled mess. There's a lot of things I haven't made sense of yet, but also I'm slowly and steadily creeping towards, I think, like a much more powerful and dynamic future. And yeah, there's other things that are things that I've been thinking about, but I don't want to talk about them in this video, so I'll probably save those for another video. Anyways, that's it for today. Today is Saturday, August 30th, 2025.